I always felt that everything that happened to me, Sheila, was my fault. I'm 70 years old, and it still hurts.
Welcome back to the part 2 of episode 92. So in the part 1, we had talked about some part of Patricia's life where she was abused as a child. She has also shared with us a few episodes of situations that nearly led to another abuse by a lady. I had talked about my own experiences with someone else that nearly led to me being coerced into something I didn't want to agree on, and when I found out, I had pulled away. We've talked a lot about marriage, we've talked about relationship abuse, and we are going to carry on from now. She's a licensed evangelist, and this is what she does. She meets a lot of women who share their stories with them, and she helps them navigate through life. So she's the perfect person to bring on our platform today, and that is why we have her here. I'm going to ask you, Patricia, sometimes when you get into a relationship or even in marriage, when you start out in the marriage as a woman, you are so loving, you are so trusting and all of that. But with time, when you get to learn about the other partner, you tend to change. Sometimes you take on another form of cover. Like if you were the very reserved person or the very quiet person, suddenly you see that you have to sit up a bit to be able to protect yourself and protect your territories. And at that point, if you are not careful, you'll be branded as disrespectful. I know that a few other women I've spoken to tend to have this issue, and they are branded very disrespectful. And this, going forward, sometimes tend to affect the relationship. Is it wrong for a woman to sit up and defend herself when she realizes she's being taken for granted? And if it is, what are some of the things you can do as a woman so as not to appear disrespectful in quote, bossy in quote? All of those things are sometimes we are tend to be branded with by our partners.
Okay. First thing first, yes, you should speak up, because in the long run, your partner will not respect you at all. You don't want to become a doormat.
Yeah.
Now, how to stand up with not offending your partner? You need to understand that men needs to be, we don't want to belittle them at all.
Yeah.
Even when you stand up for yourself, you can tell them in a way that you can say, I understand where you're coming from, but this is making me feel belittled.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to sit down and talk about this. Now, I'm not saying that particular saying will work on every man, because sometimes it may not.
Yeah.
But there is nothing wrong in you standing up. Just remember that when you stand up for yourself, you do not belittle the man. You don't want to take away his self-esteem. You don't want to take away his way of thinking, because men have pride, and they can become very, very belligerent when we start to speak up for ourselves in a way that is belittling to them. I know that for a fact, because as an evangelist and as a missionary and as a minister's wife, there came a point in my life where I tried to be this perfect person, Sheila. I wouldn't speak up. I got quiet, even though I knew that wasn't me. But because I had all these, per se, titles,
Yeah.
I call them titles,
Yeah.
that I needed to keep my mouth shut,
Yeah.
until I found myself one night late. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was in my closet on the floor crying and screaming to God that I wanted out.
Yeah.
I wanted to kill myself,
Yeah.
because I had lost who Patricia was.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong in speaking up. Just remember that your partner has feelings too. And so try not to hurt their feelings, because you don't want to be hurt. So I tell women, make sure that when you do stand up for yourself, that it's during a time when he's not in a bad mood or he's not upset. Let God kind of like lead. Your inner self would tell you this is a good time, and just say, we need to talk. And one thing I've learned with my husband, when we first got married, we made it a pact never to go to bed angry. Always try to get things settled before we go to bed. Well, I'm not going to say all that has happened to the years, all these years. And but I have noticed that when we don't discuss it, it will build up, SHEILA, and then you will find yourself getting a little bit bitter, a little bit angrier, because every time he would do something, then I would think about what he did before. And so that's why I say there's nothing wrong in standing up for yourself, but do it in a way where it's with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And never bring up things from the past, even though you want to. It's not a good thing, because they always think that we never forget anything. And so it's best not to bring it up, but you can sit down and just say, honey, I really didn't like the way things happened, the other day. I need to let you know that bothered me. And if he's a good man, he will listen. He will listen. He may not. Now, listen to me, SHEILA. He may not change right away. But if you stand up for yourself, he will start to change, and he will respect you as a woman and as a person.
Wow.
I believe, I know that for a fact. Okay. I tell women all the time, my marriage for 43 years, it hasn't always been roses and everything, but I've learned how to approach him and let him know, this hurts. You're hurting me. They may not realize that what they're doing is hurting you, but you don't want to lose who you are. Because once you lose who you are, that's when you find yourself locked up in a closet, on the floor, wanting to kill yourself. Been there, done that, got my t-shirt, as they say. When the time comes, you'll know exactly what to say and when to say it. And that inner voice in you, SHEILA, will know how to approach the subject and when to approach it. Just kind of like, don't be into a hurry. Don't be such in a hurry, because we as women, I know when something hurts me, I want to get it done. I want to attack it right then and there. You hurt me. Why? I'm loving. I'm doing all I know how. I'm treating you right. Why are you doing this? But when you do that, you push them away. Now, if you want them to be pushed away, that's the way to do it. You just go in there real strong, but you have to kind of like just take a breather. Okay, this hurts. And I need to talk to my spouse. I need to talk to my partner. And if he's not your spouse, I say talk to him as soon as possible, because you don't want to be in a relationship where you are unhappy. Because that will totally affect you mentally and physically. Literally.
Do you think that marriage these days has become something very difficult and very unattractive? I ask this because there's too many divorces coming up these days. When I was growing up, my parents married for over 45 years before God called my dad, else they'll still be married. And I used to see my mom and my dad's marriage it wasn't the best, but it wasn't toxic either. Definitely, They are two different people. They do not agree on saying things, but I saw that everybody gave each other the respect they deserved. They respected each other. They argue, but they talk about it in the end. And I don't know if they were doing anything different. But when I look at what my mom used to do for my dad, and I don't think that she did anything extraordinary from what probably I am doing. Because obviously I've learned all of this from her. And I grew up being a shouldered child. So I've not learned everything I am now. Most of them I've learned it from my mom, except the ones I would have read from books and stuff like that. I've not had any external influence anywhere. Probably the lady I met recently that was trying to, but even she wasn't able to influence me that much. But it looks like lately, I don't know if it's the generation we're in, but lately getting married has become so difficult. Is there a way to make the journey very interesting and very easy, or is this something that we are doing as people of today that cannot make our marriages as exciting and interesting enough for us to want to stay in? Because I believe a lot of people are out there who would want some of these questions answered.
Yeah, I tell my young couples today to realize marriage takes work. And if you don't want to do the work, then I say don't marry. Because today's society, when the honeymoon is over, the marriage is over. They think that every day is going to be lovey-dovey. No, it's not. Reality is, you're a woman, he's a man, he has ideas, you have different ideas. It's two people trying to become one. And I tell women all the time that you have to work at your marriage to make it where it's exciting. And how you do that, I tell women like, I have picnics on the floor in my living room, just me and my hubby. I mean, it's nothing fancy, nothing. It's just when he comes home, it's something different. He came home one day. The whole house was dark, and all he saw was just a little bit of light, and he wanted to know what was going on. I had cooked I had Chinese dinner sent in, and we sat on the floor, nothing but candles. But it takes work. You have to be willing to work at it. Now, and if he's a good man and he sees that you're trying to put it together like that, to make the marriage where it works, he will reciprocate. Trust me, he will. Your mother and father, I know what she did. She made sure that he was taken care of. She made sure that whatever he needed, he got it. And this is what our society is today. Unfortunately, it's all about me. Me. They don't think about nobody else. I believe that your husband, if you want him to really love you and treat you and do things that you want him to do, treat him the way you want to be treated. And if you do that, you will be rewarded unmanageable. I mean, it's just, you would be surprised how peaceful and how quiet it is in your home. I try to make sure that everything that he needs is done, and he does the same for me. But it has to be 2 and 2 now. It just can't be you giving all the time and he's not giving. But I think today's society, we don't want to work for it. Yeah. But you have to realize, anything that you work for it, it's worth working for it, and it's worth. And if he sees you working at the marriage, he will work at the marriage as well. So I tell my women all the time, especially young couples, if you're not willing to work, don't even think about getting married. Yeah. Yes, marriage is wonderful, it's beautiful, but keep in mind, you have to work at it.
Wow. Peaceful home is a thriving family. I say once there is peace at home, everybody in the family does well. Children are doing well, husbands are doing well, wives are doing well. It's peaceful, so people have the peace of mind to be able to plan their lives out very well, and the family becomes a thriving family. So I'm happy we've shared these tips today. Let's move on to the next one, and which is, you had said that women experience peak unhappiness in their late 30s. This one I want to know. And this declines in their late 40s and picks up again in their 50s. Why do you say that?
I got married when I was late in life. I didn't get married until I was like 27, 28, and I didn't have my first child until, I was really late in my, like 29, something like that. And then my second child I was in my 30s. And when you get that age, you look back on your life and you think, I should have been further than where I was then at 30. And that's what happened to a lot of women. When we as girls, women, they breed us when we're real little of what we should do. We should marry, we should have a husband, we should have a kids, we should have a house, we should have this and that and other by a certain time. And when we get 30 years old and we have not acquired all of those things yet, then you begin to feel like a little less of yourself. You feel like I failed, I didn't accomplish everything that I wanted to do. And then a lot of women in that age bracket too, also, Sheila, there are things that they haven't acquired as far as their job, their careers. They're not making the kind of money that they want. Not all women. And then nowadays, women don't get married like they used to. Because back when my mother was born, girls got married at 14 years old. I mean, they were married at 14. Can you imagine? Nowadays, my baby sister didn't get married until she was 49. So, I mean, today it's totally different. So, women do get depressed at 30 because of what we were taught when we were younger, that we should have so much by this age, and if we don't have everything at that age, then we get depressed and we feel like we're not worthy. And so when we begin to feel that way, when you feel not worthy of who you are, then people see that on your face. And so, yes, women do get kind of depressed around 30, and then around 40, it starts to pick up again. It starts to get up again. But by the time you get 50,
it goes down.
You start to feel that little depressed again, because now here you are, you're 50, and you look back over your life and you say, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I wanted to do this. You have a bucket list that you really didn't realize you had. And then when you get 50 and you haven't became that VP, or you haven't became that executive that you wanted to, you're not making the six figures now. I mean, you didn't make it then. So now here you are 50, and you're thinking about retirement, because you really didn't plan for retirement because you were so busy, trying to enjoy life, that you didn't save up for retirement. So now you're getting depressed because you're thinking, what is going to happen to me? Am I going to find myself homeless? Am I going to find myself without a husband? Especially with those that's not married and those that don't have a family. What is going to happen to me? So you find yourself that depression will start to creep up again when you get into your 50s. And it's just because we have such great expectation for ourselves that if we don't accomplish it, it does cause us to be depressed. And I don't know if you noticed, but they have a pill for everything. And a pill does not really help you when you are depressed. It just, I don't understand, but they're so quick to give you a pill to say, take this and this will help your depression go away. No, it won't. You have to reconcile yourself with, this is my life, this is what happened, or I didn't acquire everything that I wanted to do. And you have to come to the point where you accept who you are, where you are in life, and go forth. And I really admire women or men that they see their life the way it is now, however age they are, 30, 40, or 50. And they say, okay, I didn't get everything I wanted, but doesn't mean that I can't enjoy life. And I enjoy seeing that gumption, that I am going to make something of myself no matter what. And so that's what happens to women when they realize they didn't really acquire everything that they wanted, that they thought that they would have. I've always wanted 6 kids, but I only have 2 because I lived in a country that the medical wasn't that great, and I was afraid to have kids.
Yeah.
So by the time I came back to the United States, I was in my late 40s, almost 50. And my kids was pretty big by then. My 2 girls was pretty big by then. So I didn't get what I really thought I wanted: 6 kids, a big house, and a big dog. Well, I don't have that. But so women do get depressed because they have these ideas, and when those ideas does not come to reality, they do get depressed. But I'm telling you, don't let that bring you down, because you can be who you want to be. It just may be in a different package, but you can be who you should be.
Wow. Next question will be, how does keeping dark secrets impact a person's emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual stability?
You become afraid to share with anybody, afraid of what people may say or what people may do. I never understood, SHEILA, why I was sickly as a child. I was always sick. And as I got older, I say in the last few years, I realized that it was because of the secret that I kept. When you have something that is so dark and so that you can't really talk about it. Even now, when I wrote the book, I did not tell my family about the secret. They didn't know about the secret until after the book was published. And like I said, that's been over 60 some years. And they were shocked. They were like, well, why didn't you say something? You become a person that you guard yourself. You put this fence up in front of you because you're afraid that what people see you now, if they knew the truth about you, they would look at you differently.
Yeah.
Told certain people about my experience recently, they look at me differently, and that's what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of people keep the dark secret for so long, and it will affect you mentally. It will affect you physically, because mentally you think, I can never really have what everyone else has because of what happened to to you. I always felt that everything that happened to me, SHEILA, was my fault. I'm 70 years old and it still hurts.
Yeah.
And I have, even though God, He has shown His unconditional love to me, deep down inside, I wonder, you wonder, did I do something?
Yeah.
Did something that made them feel that they can do this to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it does affect you, and it will stay with you.
Yeah.
I wonder sometimes if I would have shared it with my family a long time ago, how would I've turned out? I was very cautious of people after that.
Yeah.
I don't trust easy, Shirley.
Yeah.
Sheila, I don't trust easy. And it all boils down to the secret that I kept for so long. And you feel like you're not worthy.
Yeah.
And it's something that I talk to God to every day, because I tell Him, I said, I need to trust more. And even though I know God and I believe in God and I trust Him, there's still that little bit of trust that I don't really have totally. Because whenever I get into trouble, my first instinct is plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D.
Yeah.
I don't even go to God. And that's where it really began to show me that it's because of the secret that I have kept for so long that I just couldn't. And it does affect you mentally and physically. I've always been sickly. There's always something wrong, and it will affect you. It will. Yeah. So I want to stress to any woman, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You are a good person.
Yeah.
You are a beautiful woman, a beautiful person. God loves you. It doesn't matter what happened. All that is wiped out from His memory. He has given you His love to you. He loves you unconditionally. There is nothing that you can do to get His love. He gives it to you freely and willingly.
Yeah.
And it will stay with you. But you have to give it to God and just let Him hold you up.
Yeah.
And keep you strong. And, that's why I focus so much on helping women. Because I know how it feels to feel alone.
Yeah.
And yet I'm married and have kids.
Yeah.
But because of the secret, you feel alone. You feel like nobody really understands. And you are so easy to be hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say anything the wrong way, your feelings are hurt. You're very sensitive. My siblings, they say I'm very sensitive. Yeah, I am, because of what has happened to me.
Yeah.
And now little by little they're beginning to understand that that's why I was so sensitive.
Wow.
To things.
Well, I'm a firm believer that we go through things to empower us or to shape us. But for me, growing up, I think I've always been somebody with a mind of her own. I wanted to do things my own way. I wanted to make my own mistakes and then be able to do the corrections myself. That was how I felt I was going to learn. So I'd lived my life like that. But I think living my life like that made me a very, very strong person going forward, because I made a lot of mistakes. I corrected them, and I've become a woman who's built walls and has become very, very resilient. And I think that sometimes when I go through challenges and people expect me to break down, I do not break, because in my head, when the situation is getting too tough and difficult, in my head I start psyching myself up and addressing the person in my head. So before I see you, I finished that already. So I'm either passing by you and not saying anything to you. And sometimes they get surprised, and those who can come forward and ask, they ask me, and I don't say anything to you. Most of the time when people do things to me, they can, what have I done to you? I don't say anything to you because I believe you know what you did to me. So I'm not yet to be explaining myself and reliving the experience, when of course it has been a very bitter experience. It's helped me. I think it's helped me, and it's helped me narrow my circle. I don't know how many people are in my circle. Probably just my husband for now. Just my husband. But I prefer to keep it like that because it keeps me sane. Else, looking at the things I've gone through, I would have lost it by now. But that keeps me sane, so I like to keep it the way it is. But I'd like to say, Patricia, that thank you very much for your time. We've had a very great time here, and maybe some other time we can arrange to bring you back, because there are lots of things that I would have wished that we talked about regarding marriage, relationship, the health of women, because I work with women. And as a woman, I also know the kind of things we go through. I've experienced some myself, and I've heard stories of what other women have gone through. And I'll be happy for us to talk a lot about it, but maybe going forward, we can plan it and do this another time.
Yes, you just let me know. And I would be more than happy to join you again. Like I said, I love to empower women. That's my goal, is to rebuild and rebound women that is going through a transition. And there's a lot of women out there that they really don't have a true confidant that they could really talk to. So I can kind of like tell them things that they won't be ashamed to say, because they really don't know me personally.
Yeah.
And then I try to give them biblical teachings as well, to help them to be who God wants them to be, and that is a strong, vibrant woman.
Yeah.
That's what He wants.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah. Well, at this point, we would like to say many thanks for coming on Podcast with SHEILA today.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I really enjoyed talking with you and your audience. Thank you so much.
Great. If you've been listening in, this is season 2, episode 92 of our podcast series, where we bring seasoned guests with inspiring life experiences to share with us. Do not miss out on all these lovely experiences. Subscribe and be notified when a new episode is released. Whilst at it, please drop us a rating. We have a video presentation of this episode on our YouTube channel. Just search for Podcast with SHEILA on YouTube and you'll find us. Our prayer for you this week is that you will live the best of your life worry-free. Together we'll make the world a better place. Until we meet again, have a brilliant